The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hi, this is Mia Mohsen-Zia, also known as Mia No Time for Love. Check out my latest book, Missing, Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People, based upon a real-life relationship, available in print and ebook formats on Amazon. Do read it. I'm sure you'll love it. It's www.miamohsenzia.com and www.amazon.com/Mia Mohsen-Zia.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Howdy.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable, custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful gentleman that came from California, now based in South Carolina. He's been a actor, he's been a writer, director, producer at Destiny Films, and he's been doing this for over 40 years. He loves to change the world, one world at a time. And of course, he's got a lot of great works like The Adventures of Ragtime, Ice Station Zebra, Loner, Double Exposure, and also more as well, too. And he also appeared on Days of Our Lives and Bewitched, and got into some quite a commercials, too. And he also has one of the films that he first started and still playing on Amazon today, and worked with a lot of greats. And if you look at this guy, you'll be like, what is this? And you'll just reach out that he is just like a friend. And he's also working on a new book, and is also a new movie, and also one of the films for kids that just made the top 20 and cracking there. Ladies and gentlemen, live from the Plush Studios in beautiful South Carolina, ladies and gentlemen, this man changing the world one word at a time, Bill Hillman. Bill, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. It's great fun.
Yes, and it's great.
Thank you for the lovely introduction.
Well, after all, it's my pleasure to be interviewing with you. You've been doing this for over 40 years, and you've been featured in Adventures of the Ragtime, Ice Station Zebra, Loner, Double Exposure, and you appeared on Days of Our Lives and Bewitched, one of my favorites. And you also spend hours with Rock Hudson, Ernest Borgnine, Lawrence Harvey, Jim Brown, and a lot more. And you just have a plethora of experience, and you've got some works as well, too. And before we get into all that, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I started as an actor. But I started really as a writer. When I was in junior high school, my first article was published on Reader's Digest. I got the bug of writing, promised one of my teachers that if I did nothing else, I would write. And that caught on. I worked my way as an actor until I realized I can make more money as a writer than I was doing as an actor. The long periods in between jobs is boring. It's glamorous when you look at it from the outside, but it's boring. The hours down when you're between shots. I worked on Ice Station Zebra for 19 weeks. All told, if my part was all rolled into a little ball, it probably was an hour and a half worth of work, but it spread out over 19 weeks. So it gives you an idea of the down period as an actor. When I stepped behind the camera, Rock Hudson actually helped me. He took me over to the post-production house and introduced me to Ferris Webster, who was the editor on Ice Station Zebra. And he wanted to know what my real love was. And I said, well, I think I'm a storyteller and I like to make movies. He gave me an education, how to edit, how to look for the great shot, how to set sums up. And then I drove John Sturgis crazy on that movie, and he finally hired me as a production assistant. He just couldn't get rid of me. I was leaning over his shoulder all the time. So that's basically how I stepped behind the camera as an actor. I still like to mess in front of the camera, but now it's fun, not a job. And I still enjoy saying a line or two and kind of peek and sneak into a little spot in every film I make. Sometimes I'm hard to find.
And what's it like working with Rock Hudson?
Rock was one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met in my life. That was really, I was a kid when I made that movie, and I was positioned. A little backstory about Rock Hudson that few people know. We used to park our cars in the back lot. The back lot was a big old field, and one night I was working a late call. And when we dismissed, everybody else had already left the lot. You schlep out to the car. And when I got out there, all four of my tires had been slashed.
Oh.
And I sat there. At the time, my wife was pregnant. And I thought, well, what in the world? There's no phones. This is pre-cell phone. What am I going to do? And all of a sudden, I see this Cadillac roaring through the parking lot. He slams on the brakes. He looks at me, and it's Rock Hudson behind the wheel.
Oh, wow.
He says, what happened? And I said, somebody slashed my tires. He said, stay right where you are. And he drove off. And I thought, oh, great. That's a major star waving at me, saying goodbye. And about a half an hour later, a truck pulled up with four tires. Got out, and I said, well, what are you doing? I'm hardly making a living, and I certainly don't have money to buy four tires. He's it's all taken care of. Put the four tires on my car, let me use the radio to call my wife and let her know where I was, and left. And the next day when I went to see Rock, he held up his hand. He said, if you're here to say anything about what happened last night, don't. Just let's talk about the future in the movies. That's the kind of man Rock Hudson was. And he used to take the whole crew to a movie or take us to lunch. He was just a really special human being.
Wow, that is
that's outside of the rumors of all the things that they say about him behind his back and stuff. But as a human being, the man was a very special friend.
That sounds like it, and would have been honored to sit down with him and Ernest Borgnine. You also worked with him. What's it like working with Ernest Borgnine?
Ernie was just like he was on screen. He was just this big old teddy bear, one of the sweetest guys I've ever met. Just a roly-poly guy. He loved my kids. Took time out to come by and say hello. Long after the film was done, Ernie and I remained friends for years. talk frequently. He was a really special guy.
That is amazing as well, too. And who are some of our other favorite actors and performers and also directors growing up? Who are some of your other favorites?
Well, one of my favorite guys is Ron Masak. I don't know if you know who Ron is. He's done thousands of commercials, and he's had his own television show, Love Thy Neighbor. He's also starred in a couple of my movies. The Man from Clover Grove, he's the star of. He's one of my special guys in the industry that we've remained friends all these years. I've worked with Robert Redford. I've worked with Shelley Long, Jay Thomas. I mean, those are some of my favorite people that were in The Adventures of Ragtime. Michael Callan was kind of a very special guy to work with. Fun, and then later in his career, he even became more fun and more intriguing. So I've had a lot of fun. I've worked with a lot of people. I've worked behind the scenes. I've worked as a script consultant and doctor, and sold 30 screenplays on my own. So it's been kind of a fun ride.
And it sounds like it, too. And we'll talk about some of your other ventures in just a minute. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition rate. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also, follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here a writer, director, producer at Destiny Films, and also a terrific actor, Bill Hillman, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about some of your latest ventures, along with a couple of books and some of your other movies, you also appear on TV in Days of Our Lives and also Bewitched. And you can just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Days of Our Lives was really kind of fun. I enjoyed that. It was the very beginning. I was on the show when it first came on the air.
Wow.
In the beginning, they shot black and white. And I was a kid on the show. On and off for the first year and a half. In those days, they had just a set cast, and everybody else was like a day player, a 2-day player, a 3-day player. I played 4 different doctors. Most of the time I wore a mask, so nobody even knew I was. Funny story about that. We were in a bowling league, and everybody knew I worked on the show. And all of a sudden, one of the scenes, I had taken the mask off, and they would ask me some questions, doctor stuff over a patient. And I go to the bowling league that night, and everybody gloms over me, and I'm thinking, oh, I've arrived as a star. And the only thing they wanted to know was what McDonald Carey was doing, and they wanted to know the secrets of the next couple of episodes. So, you get a little education as a humble actor when you discover they don't care about you at all. The show and the sneaky stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, I can imagine. You know, what is really going to happen to the doctor? What's really going to happen to his wife? Don't stay tuned. Ask Bill. I can imagine that.
yeah, and that's how it was after that too. It's a hard lesson when you're a young actor and you think you've arrived and you haven't arrived at all. You know?
I was just thinking this: if you really wanted to know what did happen to a doctor, what did happen to his wife, you just say, "Just buy me some beers or give me some money." Then I may tell you.
Well, you get humbled easy when you're trying to climb that ladder. That ladder is a tough one to climb. And I had an interview at Universal Studios, and when I went out to the interview, there was a tourist bus there, and they were all climbing off the bus, and they all pointed out, because I was driving a red convertible, at a T-Bird convertible at the time. They thought I was somebody special, and all these older ladies come running over, and they wanted my autograph, and photograph. They were taking pictures, and so I had pictures in the back seat, like all actors do, and I'm handing each one of them a little photograph. And then 2 of them turned away from me, and I looked at each other, and one said to the other, "Who the hell is Bill Hillman?" You talk about a deflating ego. that was kind of a lesson for me.
Oh my God. Well, the T-Bird was a dead giveaway. It could have been a Volkswagen Beetle where nobody knew who you were. It's like, who's driving that thing? A production assistant? I mean, if you were a star and you drove a Beetle, people would question. So maybe the T-Bird gave it away, but it's also a good thing too. So
no, that's true. That's true. Well, I think things change when you step behind the camera. Now people don't care. And I don't either, because I'm promoting the movie, so I'd like to introduce my stars and people I'm working with, and that's much more fun.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds a lot of fun, too, and you're also in Bewitched as well, too, and tell us a little bit about that. One of my favorite shows, too, by the way.
That was a kick in the butt. Elizabeth was she was always joking and playing practical jokes on people. The stuntman on that show, I did stunts when I first started as an actor. The stunt guy didn't show up on the show, and so they looked at me and said, "Have you ever done any stunt driving?" I said, "Oh yeah, I've done a bunch of that." Good, just hop in the Jeep and take off. And so I have Elizabeth in the back seat with the colonel. They've just arrested her because they want all the secrets in her brain, and we drive off this hill, and it was a little steeper hill than I thought. And I ghosted, and the Jeep went airborne for a little bit and then landed. And Elizabeth, I thought she was going to break my neck. She grabbed me from behind and says, "Do you know how to drive this thing?" And I said, "Yes, of course," as we're sailing down the hill. It was fun. I had a great time on that show. It was a lot of fun. Brings back nice memories.
What's it like working with Dick York on the set, too? I think it was Dick York.
Yeah, it was. And he was a sweet guy. He was just, everybody on that show they were helpful, which is kind of interesting when you're a young guy and you're starting out as an actor. They all kind of treat you like you're in the way more than anything else. Not with Dick and not with Elizabeth. They just welcomed you in with open arms and did whatever they could to help you get comfortable and not blow a scene.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like as well, too. And you also have been a photographer. I think we talked about that. There's also Double Exposure, and there's also Raging Cajun. And, of course, the movie Quigley that's been claimed as one of the top 20 top children family films of all time. And tell us about that, then tell us about Quigley.
Quigley is very special. We're actually planning a Quigley 2. But the first Quigley was... it was a project that came to me out of the blue. I actually dreamt about it. When I woke up from the dream, I thought, this was such a cute idea to have a heavenly dog come down and become like a detective and solve problems. And it started out that way. And then he became a hero. He was going to come down and take care of various chores or companies or kids that were in trouble or husbands and wives that had a problem. And so the first one, he takes care of a rich guy. The rich guy happens to be Gary Busey. And he hates dogs. He hates kids. He hates everybody in the movie. And he's a billionaire trying to become a multi-billionaire. And he has a terrible accident, and they don't know what to do with him. He goes into the halfway heaven. He's not really a terrible guy, but he's not really a good guy either. And so they send him back to Earth as a dog. And he has to come back and clean up all the messes that he's created before they'll allow him to come into heaven. And so he comes down, and we see the dog transform from the dog to Gary back to the dog. And we had a lot of fun with that. It was Gary's first family movie.
Wow.
And he had always been either a very bad guy, like he was in Lethal Weapon and a bunch of the other movies he did. And the Buddy Holly story was probably the nicest he'd ever been up until he came to Quigley. Quigley, even he had to admit he had a good time. We locked him in a cage. We treated him. We put a collar on his leg. He became a dog person. And,
I can imagine. Gary, sit, stay, kneel, beg. Here's your treat. Good boy.
Oz Perkins, which was Tony Perkins' son, he was co-starring in the movie, and he was the guardian angel that watched over Gary. And the two of them were a scream together. So we had a lot of fun on that. And that fun translated into children loving the movie. While I'm not sure parents really fell in love with the movie, they may have gotten stuck with it with the kids. But the kids loved the movie. And when we first released it, we released it as an infomercial. And I didn't realize what a magnificent way to sell a movie. Introduce it over television, get a chance to talk about it. We did a little 20-minute, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60-second spots. And the next thing I know, Walmart picked it up and put it up on their top shelf, and it was up there for 6 months. And we were just stunned, really. We took this little movie that mostly was kind of people referred to it as a throwaway movie, and it became a big hit. And it started playing all over the world, and things changed on it. It was fun.
It sounded like it, too. What was it like working with Gary Busey?
On and off, hot and cold. He's been claimed to be totally nuts. On the other side, he's been told to be just this terrific guy. I got along great with Gary. We had a good time on the movie. He is a little wacko. When I went to meet him, the very first time I went to meet him, we went out on his patio, and he jumps up on this board, this patio railing, and behind him is like a 70-foot drop down the hill in the Pacific Palace, the highway. And I said, Gary, we've already signed a contract. I don't want to lose my star. I sit up here all the time. And he's just sitting on this railing. Made me very nervous. And then I realized he does it all the time. And that's just Gary. He does off-the-wall crazy stuff. And that's thus why he got this crazy nickname of being wacko, because he does wacko things, and most of it is to amuse the poop out of you. He's a very funny guy.
It sounds like it, too. We'll talk about quickly, too, and your new book as well. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. Powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/the Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, over 25 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with the very, very talented actor, writer, director, and producer, Bill Hillman, here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about your movie quickly, too, and you've been doing this at Destiny Films, and tell us about your company, Destiny Films, first.
Well, Destiny's, we started out as a development company, opening the door for private money to come and invest in movies and do things that everybody wanted to have a piece of a movie and always wondered how to become one or how to get one. And so we did that for a while and consulted in people and showed them how to make money and treat the business like a business. And so Destiny became a development company. Initially, we started gathering up copyrights and finished product, and I started writing a whole lot of stuff that we had basically a drawer full of ideas and treatments and what have you. And we became a full-blown production company that has survived 30 years in the business. We now have 7 projects in various stages of production. We just have a project called Izzy's Story, which will be our next film, which we're very excited about. We just got a young lady by the name of Nancy Young who committed to star in the picture with Alessandro Fulcetti. Jimmy Starr is our co-producer and my partner. And we're really excited about this. This is a very exciting film that we're looking to have some magic happen. And we're just in the final stages of raising the funds to do that. Mm-hmm. And then next behind that, we have a project called Get Her, which is a human trafficking story of a very action-packed thriller. Man's wife is taken, and he spends the whole film going to get her, and in the process rescuing a bunch of young ladies that have been kidnapped. So we're excited about that. Then a novel that I had written a number of years ago, which was on the bestsellers list for a while, Ghosts and Phantoms. We've developed that into a series. I kept having people say to me, why don't you do something with that? It's a mafia-driven story, A little background on my family. My family came from the mob-related organization, if you will. My dad worked for the Al Capone family. And as a youngster, wanted nothing to do with that side of the world. But I got an education along the way doing and listening. When I first came to California, one of my best friends he was a Secret Service agent, an FBI agent. And when he found out my family background, we got together. We used to have lunch every day or have dinner. I'd go over to his place and we'd talk. And it was kind of a funny relationship. His name was John Ripa. If you ever read The French Connection, he was the federal agent in charge of that case. He was quite an extraordinary guy and became one of my best friends, introduced me to the former Law Officers Association. So I got a whole fill on one side of the fence, and then my family backdrop of a lot of stuff on the other side of the fence taught me a bunch of stuff. And that's where Ghost and Phantoms came from. So we created a series called Ghost and Phantoms that we're right in the throes of putting that together. And then we have another story that we have that's called Stop By. And that's a little flying saucer story about a little town in the West that is in a terrible rainstorm. All the power is shut off. A train has been stopped in town. A ruthless killer has escaped from the train. And on top of that, a spaceship crashes in the hills. And it's basically what happens. There's one survivor in the spaceship, and he's not a typical monster, and he's not all that weird stuff. He's more close to being a humanoid, only a large one. And his only goal is to get off Earth and be rescued by his comrades. And that's a very exciting project. We're thrilled to be developing.
I can imagine the guy and say, "Take me to your leader and get me off this bloody planet."
By the time you get to the end of it, that's exactly what if he was speaking English, that's exactly what he would be doing.
I didn't mean to give the whole thing away. I'm just thinking about the poor guy. It's like, get me off this planet, please.
So the bottom line is we like to have some fun. We also have Quigley 2, which I mentioned earlier, which is now fully developed into a real fun story. We've got a fairly decent cast attached to that, and it's growing, but we're now presenting that to various studios and investors. And so we at the moment, we have like 5 different projects that are all in different stages of doing something.
Wow.
We're very excited. The virus kind of slowed us down. It was kind of sad because we were ready to go into production in this last February, and along come the virus and shut virtually everything down. Mm-hmm. And so we've spent the last 6 months polishing things and getting things ready and doing all the business documents and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And now we're ready to talk business.
I think there's an upside to it with the coronavirus, where you get into production, you get on tour, whatever it is, everything shuts down. But it's also a good time, you're right, to polish and cross your T's, dot your I's and everything else. I think that's what people should have been doing, but instead they just sat back, did whatever. So I think that's a really good idea. What you did is basically just, make sure you get everything polished before you get back into production. I mean, I have to give you guys credit for that.
Well, Jimmy Starr and I have been friends for many years, and when things started to shut down in March, Jimmy and I got together, and he kept saying, "Why don't we spend this time being productive instead of, going our own way and doing stuff? Let's polish a couple of the scripts that we have. Let's really put all the documents together." So we've spent 6 months working with that, getting everything ready. And now the curtain's lifted. The DGA last week said, we can go back to work. SAG-AFTRA has finally said, okay, actors can go back to work. You have to be careful, have to be safe first. But if you do it right, Izzy's story was written, when I wrote the script, I thought, I'm going to write it specifically for the virus period. So it's a very small cast. It's designed to keep everybody on the edge of your seat. But we only have like 15 roles in the whole film. There's only about 9 locations in the whole film. Everything is isolated, and it's going to be a very good one for us to shoot during the virus and test things out and make sure things go smoothly. You have to be safe and you have to be careful and you have to protect your actors and your crew. And so we wanted to do something where we could operate with a small crew, a small cast, and few moves into locations. And so it was written, designed specifically for this kind of period.
That is amazing what you guys have done in such an amazing amount of time. And where can we find your Destiny Films, and where can we find your works at?
Well, Destiny has a site called destinyfilmsforyou.com. I have a site, williamhillman.com. Quigley has a site called quigleysite.com. So we're kind of easy to find. Jimmy Starr has multiple sites all over the place. He's a very particular, popular fellow. I'm so thrilled to have him as a partner. It's nice to have somebody that you trust really well and get along so good with. And Jimmy and I have been friends for years. And it's weird in a business like this because most of your people are looking what they can get out of you or how can they better themselves. And Jimmy's totally the other side of the coin. He wants to know what he can do for you and how can he help you and how can he push things forward. And so him and I have gotten along so well. Alessandro Fulcetti is an Italian actor who has partnered with us for the last 4 years. And he's like a lethal machine all by himself. He was part of the ASI, which is the equivalent of our Secret Service in Italy. He presently he's an American citizen, lives in Atlanta, and he trains the police down there for self-defense and how to take arms away from somebody, an armed perp, if you will. And he's a lethal machine all by himself. He's a marksman. And then you meet him, and he's the sweetest guy in the whole world. He reminds you of Jimmy. If you've met Jimmy, you know how sweet he is. And Alex is the same way. So we have a unique partnership with the three of us. And we're having good hopes. We're determined to make Alex a major name because he's got the Arnold Schwarzenegger persona, if you will. Mm-hmm. And we think we may have found somebody that he's done a lot of stunts and he's been in a lot of little films with little parts, but he's got this unique ability to transform himself. He's got a weird accent. He's from Italy. But I think the audience is going to love this guy, and we're gonna put him in a couple of projects and see if he really is as good as I think he is. As a director, I'm looking at him and thinking, "Wow, I think he's so gifted." It's like Nancy Young, the young lady we have for Izzy's story. I think she's a star. I think she's just somebody that missed her. They just missed this girl when she was a teenager. And now she's blossomed into a beautiful young lady, and I think maybe she has star material as well.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we'll find out when we release Izzy's story. We're just in the seed stages of putting it together, but once it comes out, I think an audience is going to just gobble up what she is and how she does and how she performs. And I think they're going to love Alex. So we're going in the right direction. It's kind of interesting how we're going to try and plan a few things and create maybe a star or two along the way.
I'm very excited for this, and you never know. It's like, anticipation of the 2 stars, one or two could come out of nowhere. You never know. I mean, just like that Wendy's commercial, remember that, where that original punchline was, "Oh, that must be a big bun," and then out of the mouth of Clara Pella, "Where's the beef?" It's like you didn't expect it, and she's become the star and not her. So I'm thinking as, not just the 2 stars, but maybe a couple others who will come out of the woodwork too. So I'm so looking forward to what you got. I mean, you just got some great stuff here. So.
Well, we hope so. We think we tried to do a mixture of genres, and because I like to do family films, I also like to do the thriller and the action-packed stuff. And it's a great audience to you get a special feeling when you go into a theater of yours. You're watching a movie and it's filled with a family and they're all laughing at the right place and stuff. And it's equally as exciting to go in and do a thriller and find it stone ice cold, silent.
Ooh.
And you think they're paying attention. They really are watching this darn thing. And that's that inner feeling you get as a filmmaker. So it's the fun side. We're not superstars. We're not super names. We're just having fun. we've made a lifetime of it. I've been in it all my life, and started as a kid, and I'm still here doing it. Enjoy every minute of it, and it's kind of fun. I look at the business as there's a two-prong to it. One is you have to enjoy what you're doing in order to make it successful, and the other side of the fence is you have a business and you run it like a business. But if you are having fun and doing the business together in a mix, it makes it fun for everybody that works on the film with you. Mm-hmm. And the investors who work with us, they see that when they come to the set, because we like to have personal kind of things happen. And so it gives you a good feeling. It gives you a better feeling when you write a check to an investor and give him back some of his money, and you see a big smile on his face. Because the film business sometimes has a reputation of not being so generous, but we like to be generous because it makes everybody happy. And I always look at things like, if it's a win-win, then we did our job. And we did it well.
It sounds like you guys have done a great job. And just a few more minutes with writer, director, producer Bill Hillman here on the Mike Wagner Show. Also a fabulous actor as well. You also mentioned, the book as well, too. And it's called Dream Chaser, Memoirs, Actor, Filmmaker, Author. And, tell us about that book as well, along with some other books.
Well, the book I just finished is called Over a Cup of Caramelized Chocolate. It, too, is a mystery of a different kind. It's a husband-wife team, and they're not really detectives. She's a seamstress and a real estate lady, and he's an attorney, and he's a book writer. And they get themselves into more mud than they can possibly get out of. So it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek adventure. It fits in with the Ghost and Phantoms Raleigh Kemp series. Raleigh Kemp Mysteries is where Ghost and Phantoms came from, and there are 5 Raleigh Kemp books. And he's a bigger than life troublemaker. He's got a vicious temper, needs temper management, and he's this big, tall, handsome guy. Everyone says should be a star, only he can't control his temper, and he punches everybody out. And so he teams up with another detective, and they set out to stop the world. But unfortunately, his uncle is the Godfather in New York.
Uh-oh.
And they keep dragging him back into mob business, and thus we created Ghost and Phantoms, the series. And that's the thrust behind it. Is there's the Godfather's daughter gets murdered, and it's his only daughter.
Oh.
And so he wants to find out who killed the daughter. And so he has a fellow that is named the Shadow. Everybody in the business knows. And there's 5 different crime families. He knows one of the 5 set him up and put the hit on his daughter. So the whole series is devolved around how did that happen? What did Raleigh Kemp have to do with it? Because he happened to be in the house where the girl was murdered. And the Shadow is out to find who the killer is and who ordered the hit. And that's what the whole series is about, is finding the killer, finding out who ordered the hit, and not killing a whole bunch of people by mistake.
And where can we find your books at?
All of my books are exclusive on Amazon. They've been very good to me, and I've welcomed that. So I have 2 Quigley books on there. I have 5 Quigley comic books.
Wow.
We have a comic book on The Man from Clover Grove. We got into comic books too. A friend of mine in London decided he'd help us. He read the book and he said, gee, we should do this. So we have Quigley 1 and Quigley 2 on there. And then we have Veronica and Murray, which is a romantic love story that was a bestseller. We have the Raleigh Kemp series. And then we have a couple of other independent stories about family and troublemakers and stuff. I like to break up I don't want to get copywritten as one genre. And so my whole career has been, if I do a family movie, I want to do a thriller next. I don't want to do 10 family movies. And so I've had fun. And the bottom line is, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, what are you doing? You're wasting a lot of time.
Exactly. Or as a Geico lizard said, that if you love what you do, it's not a job.
That's it. And that's exactly how I look at this whole thing. It's not a job. It's fun. And it is a job. But I mean, I don't mean to brush aside the business side of it, because when we make a film, we're very serious about, I'm spending somebody else's money, so I want to be very careful what I do with it, whether it's studio money or private money. Studio money, they watch you a whole lot closer than private money, but nonetheless, they watch you. Well, I like to watch myself first so that I don't have anybody that leans over my shoulder and says, what are you doing? Or what's that for? Why'd you spend this? Or how come you did that? Fortunately, we've never gone over budget. So that's one of the prides that we have, is that we, in watching things as a businessman, no matter how much fun you're having while you're doing it, if you have the right people next to you and they warn you or they tell you, in count number 7, you're going to go over if you keep doing what you're doing. And it gives you that warning to pull back and tighten the strings a little bit and make some changes. And that keeps you on budget and on schedule. So when you go out to cast your crew, if you will, you do it with the same intent as you do the actors. And that way you can count on everybody behind you as well as who's in front of you. And it makes for good business. And it's fun.
It sounds like you're having a lot of fun. And what else can we expect from you in 2021 and beyond, besides the ones you mentioned? What else do you have in the works as well? What else can we expect from you?
Well, we have a thing called Flying Saucer. Mm-hmm. Flying Saucer is such a kick in the butt. It's a family film. It's 5 kids that are told not to go into the house at the end of the block. 2 of them managed to sneak in or 3 of them, a girl and 2 boys. They sneak in because they just got, and then they discover that the guy who owns the thing, while he's got a terrible reputation, he's the sweetest old guy in the whole world. But he tells them, don't go into the basement, don't go into the cellar, stay out of that, and you can have a run of the house. Well, of course they go to the cellar. Of course they go to the basement. Of course they go to the back room. And then they discover this wonderful machine that looks like a video machine. Wow. And when they get into the video machine, they push the wrong buttons and it launches. It's a spaceship. Goes right through the wall and takes them off on a journey. They outrun F-16s and it's just it's an escape film. And it's got a great ending, got a lot of fun. We introduce a whole new planet, Moipoi. And it's just, that's one of the ones that's coming up. We have a project called Ghost, which Jimmy stars, one of his favorite scripts. We have a project that's based on a true story called Joey, and that's all about street kids, primarily kids that are blended backgrounds, blended in the fact that they're half white, half black, or they're Hispanic and white, or they're mixtures, and then they become misfits and they're left on the street. And that's all about a black man who owns a junkyard, who has transformed a portion of it into a classroom, hotel, motel kind of thing. And he takes these kids off the street and raises them. And in between, an awful lot of stuff happens. So it's not quite as sugar-coated as it sounds, but it's a lot of fun, educational at the same time, with a lot of heart and soul in it. So that's another one that's on our drawing board. So we have like 15 different projects, a couple of television series that we're developing. And each one has a heart and soul. Each one is a little bit different than the other. And none of them are anywhere close to the same. So if someone says, well, do you have 2 of those? No, we don't. We only have 1 of those. Mm-hmm. And we try and keep it that way.
And I'm so looking forward to it. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career, Bill?
Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan discovered me when I did a play, took me to my first agent, introduced me to the first agent, helped me sign with ICM, which is where I got my career, and they got me started in the business in the first place. He was quite a guy in my life and gave me great influence and a great insight. Mm-hmm. My family, I can't look back on them and say not any of them were a role model. So I was looking, when I escaped from there and got out here, one of the first people I met was Ronald Reagan. Wow. He happened to come to a play that I was doing, and we became friends, remained friends all through. Great story about Ronald Reagan, if we have the time. When I was shooting The Man from Clover Grove, my first movie, I had the fire department come out and shut me down. Oh, wow. And Ronald had told me that if I ever got in trouble, call him. Well, at the time, he was the governor. And so the fire department shuts me down and says, you need a truck every 15 feet, and we're going to fine you and shut you down. And if you can't pay the $1,000 fine for every truck, we're going to just cease you from shooting up here. I said, Ronald Reagan just said that he'd help people, and he's, oh, don't give me that garbage. And I said, let's go call Ronald. So we go over to the production office, and I had my secretary call Sacramento. And when the girl answered the phone, I said, would you put Ron on the phone for me? And it stunned her to such a degree, she didn't know what to do. So she put Mr. Reagan on the phone. You couldn't miss his voice no matter who. And I said, Ronnie, this is Bill Hillman, and I have a fireman who's shutting me down. And you said to me, if I ever needed really help and got myself in a bind, to call you. And he says, put the guy on the phone. So I put if you'd have seen the guy's face, he rolled his eyes, and I handed him the phone. And the minute he heard Mr. Reagan's voice, it was, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. I'll take care of it, sir. We got all our trucks free. Everything was done. And we finished our movie on time.
Oh my gosh. So amazing. And of course,
wonderful story.
And of course I can imagine, Ron back then. Good job, Bill. Now you can have some jelly beans. Oh, amazing.
He took my call, which stunned me. But, I was so angry at the time, and I thought, I have nothing to lose. All I can do is he won't answer the phone or he won't pick up. And he didn't do any of that. He did everything. So
there you go. You know what? Actually, I love to have you back on talking about Ronald Reagan and some of your ventures. I love to do that. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Be true to yourself. Don't give up. Don't take no for an answer. You're going to hear a lot of no's all through your life. Ignore them. Be yourself. Because if you're true to yourself, and no matter who you are, whether you're a man or a woman, especially in women's lives, they have to have a little bit more strength and backbone than men do, unfortunately. It's changing slowly, but not really. I like to hire a mixed crew and always have. I love working with women. They give as much as the men do. But be true to yourself. If you believe in what you're doing, don't give up. That's the bottom line.
That is fantastic. Once again, Bill Hillman, actor, writer, director, producer of Destiny Films, also author, and more on the Mike Wagner Show. Bill, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot from you. Looking forward to having you on very soon. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your works?
I appreciate it. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I look forward to doing it again with you.
Sounds great, Bill.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you very much, Bill. You have a good night, and stay safe.
Thank you.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.